Thank you. Okay. Hello, everyone. So, purport, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 12. In the Vedas, in the Katha Upanishad, as well as in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the maintainer of innumerable living entities in terms of their different situations according to individual work and reaction of work. That Supreme Personality of Godhead is also, by his plenary portions, alive in the heart of every living entity. Only saintly persons who can see within and without the same Supreme Lord can actually attain to perfection, actually attain to perfect and eternal peace. And Prabhupada quotes the Katha Upanishad 2.2.13. Nicho nityanam chaitanas chaitananam eko bahunam yo vidadati kaman tam atmastam ye nupashyanti virastesham shanti shashvati netaresham. The same Vedic truth given to Arjuna is given to all persons in the world who pose themselves as very learned, but factually have but a poor fund of knowledge. The Lord says clearly that he himself, Arjuna, and all the kings who are assembled on the battlefield are eternally individual beings, and that the Lord is eternally the maintainer of the individual living entities, both in their conditioned as well as in their liberated situations. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the supreme individual person, and Arjuna, the Lord's eternal associate, and all the kings assembled there are individual, eternal persons. It is not that they did not exist as individuals in the past, and it is not that they will not remain eternal persons. Their individuality existed in the past, and their individuality will continue in the future without interruption. Therefore, there is no cause for lamentation for anyone. The Mayavadi theory that after liberation, the individual soul, separated by the covering of Maya or illusion, will merge into the impersonal Brahman and lose its individual existence is not supported here by Lord Krishna, the Supreme Authority. Nor is the theory that we only think of individuality in the conditioned state supported herein. Krishna clearly says herein that in the future also the individuality of the Lord and others, as it is confirmed in the Upanishads, will continue eternally. This statement of Krishna is authoritative because Krishna cannot be subject to illusion. If individuality is not a fact, then Krishna would not have stressed it so much, even for the future. The Mayavadi may argue that the individuality spoken of by Krishna is not spiritual but material, even accepting the argument that the individuality is material. Then how can one distinguish Krishna's individuality? Krishna affirms his individuality in the past and confirms his individuality in the future also. He has confirmed his individuality in many ways, and impersonal Brahman has been declared to be subordinate to him. Krishna has maintained spiritual individuality all along. If he is accepted as an ordinary conditioned soul in individual consciousness, then his Bhagavad Gita has no value as authoritative scripture. A common man with all the four defects of human frailty is unable to teach that which is worth hearing. The Gita is above such literature. No mundane book compares with the Bhagavad Gita. When one accepts Krishna as an ordinary man, the Gita loses all importance. The Mayavadi argues that the plurality mentioned in this verse is conventional and that it refers to the body. But previous to this verse, such a bodily conception is already condemned. After condemning the bodily conception of the living entities, how was it possible for Krishna to place a conventional proposition on the body again? Therefore, individuality is maintained on spiritual grounds and is thus confirmed by great acharyas like Sri Ramanuja and others. It is clearly mentioned in many places in the Gita that this spiritual individuality is understood by those who are devotees of the Lord. Those who are envious of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead have no bona fide access to the great literature. The non-devotees' approach to the teachings of the Gita is something like bees licking on a bottle of honey. one cannot have a taste of honey unless one opens the bottle. Similarly, the mysticism of the Bhagavad Gita can be understood only by devotees, and no one else can taste it, as it is stated in the 4th chapter of the book. Nor can the Gita be touched by persons who envy the very existence of the Lord. Therefore, the Mayavadi explanation of the Gita is a most misleading presentation of the whole truth. Lord Chaitanya has forbidden us to read commentations made by the Mayavadis and warns that one who takes to such an understanding of the Mayavadi philosophy loses all power to understand the real mystery of the Gita. If individuality refers to the empirical universe, then there is no need of teaching by the Lord. The plurality of the individual soul and of the Lord is an eternal fact, and it is confirmed by the Vedas, as above mentioned. Hare Krishna. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svaya Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Scha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vishavanusate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpati Yudhyascha Kripa Sindhu Yevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadikora Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Natrevaham Tatuna Samnatvam Name Janalipa Nachevana Bhavishya Sarve Vayamatakara. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us ever cease to be. Hare Krishna. Well, okay. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions the great Acharya, the great Vaishnava teacher, Ramanujacharya. So according to my calendar, today is the anniversary of the appearance day of Ramanujacharya. This is not a Vaishnava holiday that Prabhupada specifically put on the calendar. He gave us about 19 particular festivals to celebrate. But certainly he encouraged us if we want to do more than that. So Ramanujacharya would be in that category. Ramanujacharya is a great Vaishnava teacher, guru, saintly person, an incredible scholar. And Ramanujacharya, he's in a different line of Vaishnavism. He's in what's called the Sri Vaishnava line. That's a line, of course, started from Krishna coming through goddess Lakshmi, and then through Ramanujacharya, maybe 800 years or so ago. So there are 4 authorized Vaishnava lines, and each has so many branches. We come in a line called the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Through, of course, Krishna himself appeared as Lord Chaitanya. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahaya Anya. Sri Krishna himself appeared as Lord Chaitanya in this line. And of course, Prabhupada brought this Bhakti Yoga teachings to the West in this line. So there's 4 lines through Lakshmi, through the 4 Kumaras, and through Lord Shiva, and then through Brahma. Ours comes through Brahma. And each line has some particularly prominent acharya. And it's like in our line, sometimes Madhvacharya is cited. Of course, Lord Chaitanya himself appeared. And in other lines, Nimbarka Swami appeared, Vishnu Swami. And in the Lakshmi Sampradaya, Ramanujacharya appeared. And Ramanuja, well, the name indicates a follower of Lord Ram. So it's described Ramanujacharya himself. He particularly worshipped Sita Ram more than Radha Krishna. That was his service. And in his line further down, we get personalities like Venkata Bhatt, who's the father of Srila Jiva Goswami. Mm. And it's described Venkata Bhatt, he was worshipping Lakshmi Narayan. So it's a Lakshmi line. And there's pastimes between Venkata Bhatt and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Venkata Bhatt did not want to be convinced to worship Radha Krishna because so Lord Chaitanya was very, very moved by Venkata Bhatt's dedication to Lakshmi Narayan. Of course, Jiva Goswami comes in the Ramanuja line, and then he devoted his life to Lord Chaitanya. Mm. So these bona fide lines, it's a Chintya Veda Veda Tafta. There's differences, and it's all one in service to Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, with some different flavors. So Ramanujacharya comes in a different sampradaya. Sampradaya means group or party. And even so that's the case, Prabhupada quotes him extensively, such as in this verse. Prabhupada specifically quotes Ramanujacharya a lot when Prabhupada's exposing the shortcomings of Mayavad impersonalist philosophy. There's
Buddhism, no, Shankaracharya.
Shankaracharya and Buddhism are similar, but we'll go to that in a few minutes. So there's purports in the Adi Leela of Chaitanya Charitamrita, for example, Adi Leela chapter 5, Adi Leela chapter 7, quite some dense philosophical purports, and Prabhupada profusely quotes Ramanujacharya. It's actually described. It's described that the traditional study of the Vedas, the students of the Vedas, the scholars of the Vedas, they're called Vedantists. And most of them miss the actual conclusion of the Vedanta. Vedanta actually means the conclusion or the end, anta, of Veda, of knowledge. Mm-hmm. And so, as we've discussed in some recent classes and discussions, in our line of spiritual life, the commentary on the Vedas, the commentary on Vedanta is given by Vyasadeva himself, the compiler of the Vedanta. Vedanta Krit Veda Videvacham. Yes. Vedeshta Shavaraham Vedyo. So Vyasadeva clearly gives his realizations about his own works, the Vedas. But most of the scholars who are called Vedantists, they come to non-personal conclusions. Non-personal conclusions. That the idea of our own individuality is an illusion. That ultimately we're all God in the sense of oneness. The idea of God being a distinctive person, a supreme person, that's all illusion. These are the false conclusions they come to. So there's some interesting tricks around the word Vedanta. So, of course, Danta is also the English root or Latin root of dental, teeth, right? It is.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, no, it's in the purports. You can read it. So Ramanujacharya and Madhvacharya, they're especially known for just smashing, defeating, exposing the flaws of Mayavadi philosophy. So the Vedantists are then called Vedantis, which means toothless. Vedanti means toothless. It's a pugilistic imagery. It's a pugilistic metaphor.
Wow.
And that, because the idea is that Ramanujacharya and Madhvacharya, they knock out the teeth of the Mayavadi philosophy. It's quite a aggressive analogy. They knock out the teeth. So the Vedantists become Vedantis, toothless. It's actually described.
They're to mess around.
Yeah, they're not messing around. They had a particular mission. So historically, so of course we had Bhagavad Gita, and this is, eternal knowledge. It's not a religion. Krishna throughout Bhagavad Gita, in the conclusion, Krishna describes Sarvan Dharman Parityagya Mamekam Sharanam Braja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshaishami Mashucha. Krishna says, give up all religion and just surrender to me. Real religion, real spiritual life, it's meant to be transformational. It's not about, do you believe this, do you believe that? It's about, is our heart changing from materialistic to godly? Are we deepening our enthusiasm for service, for bhakti, for service to God? So whether when I'm a Hare Krishna, I'm a Christian, I'm a Buddhist, I'm a Jew, who cares about labels? What's the condition of your heart? So that's what Krishna, that's what Bhagavad Gita, and this is this godly devotional condition of the heart. This is the yes. This is the real test of any process. Call it yoga, call it religion, call it philosophy. It's the real test of any process. Is it transformation? So that's so this was spoken about 5,000 years ago. The conversation between Krishna and Arjuna, as narrated by Sanjaya, and Sanjaya has mystic television, seeing the scene on the battlefield. Mystic television provided by his guru, Vyasadeva. Okay, so then in the name of Bhagavad Gita, in the name of Vedas, there was different corruptions and deviations happening. Different corruptions and deviations. And so in the name of the Vedas, people were just causing all sorts of distortions and decadence and messes. So Krishna appeared in the form of Buddha about 2,500 years ago. He appeared in the form of Buddha deliberately to take people away from the Vedas. And the primary teaching of Buddha, ahimsa paramo dharma, is nonviolence. Because in the name of the Veda, it's somewhat similar to the Jesus pastimes in the temple in Jerusalem, the temple of Solomon. So in the name of the Vedas, people were doing all sorts of animal slaughter and this and that, and they're just misinterpreting with cheating mentality, crooked, greedy mentality. So Buddha said, okay, forget about the Vedas, just follow me. And he preached, he gave a sort of voidism, nothingness type of philosophy, sort of voidism. And okay, and so then, and that way, because Buddha he's a Shakti-based avatar, he's an empowered incarnation of the Supreme Lord. So by following him, they actually were making spiritual progress. They're actually making spiritual progress. Okay, and philosophically, he gave a voidist philosophy to take people. So void doesn't actually exist anywhere, but
actually, it was not really to preaching. Like I did like a research, and they have like a spiritual world there and things like that too. So
it's there. Yeah, it's there. It's a fact.
Maheshdan.
Yeah, they have us like that. And then maybe about 1,000 years after Buddha, Shankaracharya came. And Shankaracharya, he brought people back to the Vedas, focusing on the non-personal, the oneness. Kind of like ultimately reality is all one white light. Okay? And there's some truth to that. In one sense, this oneness, white light, is not different than voidism. We give the example, like if we're in a room and everything's dark and there's no windows and there's no light and everything's pitch black, what do we see? We see nothing. We see no distinctions. I don't see the distinction of those books and that chair and here's Keith and here's Ramachandra. We see nothing. Similarly, if we were to take a bank of football stadium lights in this room and shine it in our eyes, what would we see? Similar, we would see no distinction. So it's real similar. Still, Shankaracharya, who is a partial incarnation of Lord Shiva himself, he brought people back to the Vedas. Brought people back to the Vedas. And even, just like you said, Buddhism does have spiritual realm. Similar, Shankaracharya, he describes Narayano Puro Vyakta. Yes, Krishna, Narayan, is a transcendental personality. And on his deathbed, Shankaracharya was speaking to his followers and he said, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Mudamate. My foolish disciples, with all of your philosophical, intellectual wranglings, just worship Govinda, worship Govinda. So he's the chief of the impersonalists, and his conclusion is very clear. So to skip a few chapters, to kind of fast forward here. So then about 1,000 years after Shankaracharya, Lord Chaitanya appeared, and he gave the complete Veda conclusion, Achintya Veda Veda Tattva. And between Shankaracharya and Lord Chaitanya, there's a series of 4 Vaishnavacharyas. I don't have the order completely, but it's like Vishnu Swami, Nimbarkacharya, Madhvacharya, and Ramanujacharya. And they each gave philosophies progressively towards Achintya Veda Veda Tattva, from what's called radical Advaitavad. Advaitavad means a radical undifferentiated oneness is the truth. Is the truth. Everything else is Maya. That's one meaning of Mayavadi. Everything is Maya. And so like Ramanujacharya, his philosophy was called Vishishtavad. Vishnu Swami's philosophy was called Shuddhadvaitavad. Yeah. And it's all leading up to Lord Chaitanya, who gives Achintya Veda Veda Tattva, which is the complete Veda conclusion, inconceivable and simultaneous oneness and difference. So, because this is very important, this verse, so this is, in a sense, this is the beginning of the philosophical teachings of Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna is establishing a positive truth. You and me and Krishna and all the kings on the battlefield and the blade of grass and the squirrel, that we're all eternally individual souls. Very important, because the idea that everything's illusion. Well, there's truth to that, obviously, right? Like all the forms of this world are temporary. We see all the forms. Okay, and it's pretty easy to find. It's pretty easy to find philosophies where it's all illusion, it's all illusion. Okay, so sure, we want to be supported to detach from the ephemeral, for that which has no eternal existence. Nasato vijite bhavo, na bhavo vijite satam, upayor abhidrishtum tvas, tvanyos tattvat arashipi. Krishna says, yeah, that which is non-existent has no endurance, and that which is existent has no sensation. Seers of the truth have concluded this by studying the nature of both. Okay, so, but what is positive reality? So, what's called a Mayavadi philosopher would say, no, everything is Maya. Even when God appears, that's just a form of, everything is Maya, except for the statements that come from my mouth when I say that everything is Maya. That's an important point. Everything is Maya, except for the books that I write. There's no need for books. I'm going to write a book about that.
And throw it away after.
Yeah. No, it's an important point. Everything is Maya. Everything is illusion. Well, is what you just said illusion? No, that's truth. No, that's illusion. So, all right. So, what is the positive truth? And Krishna is establishing that here and throughout Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, we want to differentiate. Dharma Project we want to differentiate reality from illusion for the welfare of all. Okay, so there is lots of illusion, and we want to disentangle from that. We want to be clear-minded. And the truth is, yes, I'm not the body. I'm thinking I'm this body. That's illusion. True. I'm thinking I'm this body. And I'm thinking, this is my house, and this is my car. And that's also illusion. That's also illusion. I and mine. These are root forms of illusion. But who am I positively? And where do we get now? So here, yes, we are that irreducible quanta of consciousness, spirit, soul. Okay, that's who we think we are now. But at the time of death, we merge into the oneness. No, we're eternally persons. We're eternally individual persons. And Krishna is eternally the Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam. So we're eternal and Krishna is eternal. He's the supreme eternal. So because when we think about personal growth or transformation, what is it that transforms? Who is this person that's growing? Okay. If we think about this, like what's the goal in spiritual life? My goal is to realize the nothingness. My goal is to realize that I'm God. No, I heard of it. If I pay $350 and there's a payment plan, then in 6 months I can realize I'm God. Okay, and stuff like that. So what's our goal? So here the goal is to realize who I am as a spirit soul, not God. I mean, in a sense, we're all the energy of God. So just like the sun rays are non-different from the sun, but the sun rays are not the sun globe. So, okay, to realize myself as a spirit soul, as a servant of God. So Krishna is establishing these philosophical, ontological realities, these principles, right here. And just so sublime, so important, very clear, very clear. All spirit, that's the platform of equality. All spirit souls are equal. Vijaya Vinaya Sampane, Brahmane Gavi Hastini, Shuniche Vasvapakicha, Pandita Samadarshina. The humble sage sees with equal vision. A Brahmin, a dog, an elephant, a dog eater, a cow, like that. So the spirit soul inside all life forms is equal. Okay, there's not a different soul. None. I mean, we are eternally individuals. Just like every snowflake is different, right? The unlimited trillions of snowflakes. At the same time, they're all made of H2O. So they're all one. At the same time, they're all distinctive. So similarly with spirit souls. There's not like a different type of soul in the rich person or the poor person or the black person or the white person or the Russian or the Jew or the Arab. I mentioned it because in studying Jewish philosophy, they got these kind of different soul. And that's described in God. That's philosophy in the mode of passion. It's philosophy in the mode of passion. There's a Jewish soul and things like that. So I said, no, the spirit soul's equal. So, okay, and the spirit soul, our dharma, our natural state, Nityasiddha Krishna Prema Sajjaka Brahmaya Shravanani Shuddhachite, Karani Mudai, is to serve Krishna with love and devotion. Krishna, the all-attractive personality of Godhead. The goal is not to become Krishna. I remember this was in 2002. Maybe some of you heard me tell this story. In 2002, I was participating in a transformational seminar. It was a very good seminar. It was very well done. Very sincere facilitators and nicely done. Marie Malini has been to that seminar too. Not at the same time as me, a little bit after. But so anyhow. But they were coming from a spiritual basis, but not Vaishnav. And anyhow, at one point, there was like a cathartic process, and I was on the floor. And going through something, and they knew because I knew from my neck beads, and they knew, they knew I was chanting Hare Krishna. So their staff came to me. Some staff members came to me. It was like in the dark. I was on the floor, like that. And they came to me, and they were very well-meaning. And they came to me, and they said, David, just know that you are Krishna. Just know that you are Krishna. So this was not helpful for me.
Tarsus is onward.
Yeah, it was kind of it was quite a roadblock, and I was like, well, that's not really what I wanted to hear at this time. They were well-meaning, because like from their point of view, what else could be the goal than to knowing that you are Shiva and you are Krishna? Okay, now we're eternally individuals, and yes, I about 5-6 days ago, I got a phone call from Naveen Krishna Prabhu. I got a phone call from Naveen Krishna Prabhu. We hadn't talked for a while because I was in the advanced seminar and different things. So I got a phone call, and it's about maybe 4 or 5 days ago. And after Hare Krishna, glories to Prabhupada, the first thing he said, he asked me a question. He said, how is it going with your social intimacy with the Supreme Personality of Godhead? So it was a very appropriate question, because it was the beginning of the social isolation. So I liked this question, and my response was, well, it could be better. Because the idea is, with this time of isolation and lockdown, it's a perfect arrangement to develop our social intimacy in the heart with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so I said, well, yeah, I have this opportunity, but I'm not so satisfied with how much I'm taking advantage of the opportunity to develop because the idea was social distancing, to develop my social closeness. Krishna is a social creature, and so are we. Even I noticed, like this morning, I go out on a japa walk, 6:30 a.m., 7 a.m. It's nicer, because usually at that time there's some cars, some trucks, this and that. But here it's just like there's the birds chirping is crisper. It's just like it's even more conducive to meditate on myself as a soul and my connection with Supreme Soul. Sarvasya Jamriti Sanivisto. Krishna says, I am the super soul in the heart of all living entities. Okay. So we're meant to read Bhagavad Gita, not for some abstract philosophy, but to look, okay, where and how am I a Mayavadi? There's a story from the early days of Prabhupada's movement in the West. The first century opened was 1966. And it's described in later years that, so Swami Prabhupada was known as Swamiji at the time. And he would be talking about, and the Mayavadis, and they negate Krishna's form, and Mayavadis. So afterwards, the students, while smoking cigarettes or at the donut shop or whatever, they would be saying, oh, Mayavadis, I guess Swami is referring to some obscure philosophers in some village in South India, Mayavadis, I don't know. Some cult, yeah, whatever, Mayavadis. And then they say, like a week or two later, Prabhupada would be speaking, and they would realize, oh, Mayavadis, that's me. Oh, that's us. Oh, yeah. To see where are my tendencies to escape from my personalism, to escape from my personal responsibility. Where is the envy in my heart that I'm developing a conception of life where I don't need to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead? That's Mayavad. Mayavad, trying to bring God, Krishna, down to our level. That's when God appears in this world. It is simply material energy. Sahajya, like Mayavadi, tries to bring Krishna to our level. Krishna's body is like mine. And Sahajya philosophy is the same, but reverse. Sahajya philosophy is trying to equalize through bringing my body to Krishna's level. That, like, Krishna
wants to enjoy me.
Yeah, is really interested in this material body. This body is transcendental spirit, so it's kind of repulsive, but that's it. So they're both trying to equalize. One tries to bring Krishna down to the level of my body, and the other tries to bring my body to the level of the gopis, transcendence. So Prabhupada talks about accepting authority, like Ramanujacharya. Today is the anniversary of the appearance day of Sri Ramanujacharya.
Yeah.
Jai Hare Krishna. This analogy of a green bird going into a green tree, Prabhupada attributes that analogy to the writings of Ramanujacharya. The idea is like merging, we all merge. Well, no, it's going to be like a green bird goes into a green tree. It looks like it's merged, but actually the bird retains its individuality. Merging is illusory. Merging is illusory. Okay? Like that. So, okay. So we accept our authority. That's called Shabda Brahman. That's the epistemology, the Praman. And that's the highest that we hear from infallible authority, transcendental vibration, where the vibration itself is non-different from the truth that it's communicating. We chant Hare Krishna. Krishna is non-different from his name. Now, at the same time, Krishna is appreciating that it's not that everyone who's reading or hearing this, that they necessarily accept Vedic authority. And that's important for us too, in our sharing this Krishna consciousness. We want to be able to share any of the principles based on Vedic authority. We want to be able to quote verses and give reference to authorities, like where does Prabhupada say that? And we want to be able to come out with it. Where does Ramanujacharya say that? And at the same time, much of the world don't accept Vedic authority. Even if they don't accept Vedic authority, as there was a theme in the recent advanced course, when we quote Sanskrit, it adds credibility. Many people, they get this, there's something ancient here, there's something eternal, there's something bona fide, authorized, it's powerful. They get that in the vibration. And also we want to be able to communicate any of the principles by logic and experience. Here's my experience. Here's a logical argument. And that's where Krishna goes next. There's 20 verses here. Hello. Haribo. Hare Krishna. Yes. So there's 20 verses here, verses 11 through 30 of chapter 2. And Krishna is describing the amazing soul. The soul is amazing. And describes the soul as death is only the material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal soul is subject to destruction. And he gives logic. As the embodied soul continually passes from childhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at the time of death. So that's authoritative, but he's appealing to logic. Look, we can experience our body changing. Now in the days of advanced science with chemistry, yes, the cells, the atoms are always changing. It's the illusion that my body grew. No, the body is completely changing, but there's some constant identity that I experience, right? It's some constant identity that I experience, right? So that identity is non-physical. So that's experience, that's logic, those are epistemologies, those are ways of knowing. Experience is prajaksha, and logic is anumana. Logic and experience together, anumana, that's basically the modern empirical method, and then there's Shabda Brahman. So Krishna is showing on this principle, for example, sure, our logic and our experience, our inferential analysis, that can support the truth coming from Shabda Brahman. It can support it, complement it, strengthen it, supplement it. And then at the same time, when our attempts at prajaksha, direct experience, because the direct experience and inferential empirical analysis are faulty. There are shortcomings there. Right? Just like by direct experience, we experience the sun as a circle in the sky 3 inches in diameter. So our senses are not accurate there. Through some empirical analysis, science, we know it's actually this global, it's actually this vast stellar body that's a million times greater in diameter than the Earth, like that. And okay, so Prabhupada gives the example of like the conch shell. Right, so the idea is the bone of an animal is contaminated. Don't touch it; it's full of disease, like that. But the conch shell is the bone of an animal, and it's pure, and we use it. We use it for our practice of worship, to blow the conch shell. So we say, well, logically, that doesn't make sense. So logic never supersedes Shabda Brahman. We want to develop a trust in Shabda Brahman and simultaneously be able to powerfully communicate any of these eternal universal principles with respect to logic and experience. We can, Shabda Brahman says, chant Hare Krishna. And then we say, well, I want to try it. So we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And we have an experience. We can also think logically. In the material realm, the name is different than the thing. But for God, that's what absolute means. There's no difference between God and God's name. So that's why. So there's we can apply our logic and understand it. And whatever we understand or not, we have an experience of purification. So Prabhupada emphasizes the point, Saeva Yamayate Dhyan Yoga Prokta Pratana Bhaktosine Sakachiti Rasyamye Tarutamam. He gives the point here of like we can argue about what honey tastes like. And we can lick the outside of the bottle. We can speculate. I think it tastes like this, but if we really want the honey, we open the jar and taste it. So the way to taste these truths, the way to get the bliss of the soul awakened is by this process of devotion. Because we're eternal persons, God is the supreme person, absolute is sentient, thou hast proved, in personal calamity thou hast moved. That's a poem, it's a couplet from a poem by Srila Prabhupada in glorification of the spiritual master Bhaktisiddhanta, who established, like Ramanujacharya, the personal truth of the absolute. So the absolute's a person. So ultimately, if we want to unlock the secrets, open the jar of honey, we need to serve that person with love and devotion. We get to serve that person with love and devotion, and then these truths are revealed to us. Otherwise we become like Vedantis. We can, it's described in the Brahma Samhita, Pantastu koti satavatsara sampradamyo vayor tapi manasa muni pungavanyam. So pyastya prapada, simnyami chinchatakte govinda madi pusham tamaham bhajami. Lord Brahma describes that the speculators, the jnanis, without devotion, they can try for millions and millions of, not just years, millions of lifetimes. And the yogis can meditate for millions of lifetimes. And if they're sincere through those processes, maybe they'll get a glimpse of the radiance from the toenail of Lord Sri Krishna. And Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena Shantasha Deva Videshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Chincha Gunaswarupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamamajani. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, the original progenitor, who is Shamasundar, who is Sri Krishna himself, possessing innumerable transcendental attributes and qualities, and who the pure devotees see and realize in their heart of hearts by the eyes of devotion tinged with the salve of love. That's the key to open the jar of honey. Natvevaham jatunasam natvam nachevana bhavishyama sarvevaya tatparam. Never was there a time that I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. Hare Krishna. Thanks for your presence and attention. Thanks for listening. I welcome if there's any comments, questions, realizations anyone wants to ask or share.
Great.
Ramachandra.
Yeah, it's like a sharing and both the question that I wanted to ask. I really connected to this point about perceiving God's intelligence. I think that's what I got from you, like the Krishna in these 20 verses from 11 to 30, he gives a taste of the philosophy of God. I remember before catching the Bhagavad Gita, I had like this another book, like Conversations with God.
Yeah.
And then I had the Bhagavad Gita and the Song of God. I was like, no, I'm going to read the Song of God. Like, why should I read the Conversations? It sounds boring. And when I will start selling the Bhagavad Gita, that'll be one of my main lines, that if you would talk to God and listen to him speaking philosophy, like wouldn't you like to hear what's God philosophy? It's not what's God rules or regulations or all these dogmatic things, but really what God thinks about when he thinks.
Wow.
So, and really, it will really transform people right on the spot. And
You just did a lot of books that way.
Yeah, specifically the Bhagavad Gita, as it is. And my question is, I was wondering if you could, if it's possible, maybe to extrapolate a little bit on this last point Prabhupada mentioned in a line or two before the end of the purport, that it's like, for me, it seemed that Prabhupada emphasizes how useless the whole process of self-realization becomes if we think that we all won, or something like that. If that's like something that I'm like trying to deep my understanding. Whenever I read this verse, I try to deepen my understanding in that.
Okay. Yeah. Toda Rabba.
Bekef.
Yeah. Yes. So I appreciate your appreciation for this series of 20 verses in Bhagavad Gita. Yes. It's a so. Yes, 2 days ago in the verse I read, I said that's 2.62 Bhagavad Gita. I said this one verse contains more actual valid information about psychology than I got in all of my academic courses, and I got lots of degrees and things like that. And I don't regret getting those degrees. Still, I'm appreciating the succinct, potent clarity of Bhagavad Gita on all profound points. So here, what is the soul? Just a transcendently, inconceivably brilliant series of 20 verses. So my understanding, I mean, there's a lot in this purport. I mean, this might be more than the 100th time I've read this purport, and I got fresh realizations reading it. And so. So, and there's a verse Prabhupada often quotes, Yene Ravindakshara Mukti Maninas Trayasta Baba Davishuddha Buddhayo, are we a creature in a Brahmadam Tatapatanti Dao Nadrita Yushmarandra? That even if one has this kind of oneness idea, but the intelligence is still impure until the soul develops its natural enthusiasm to personally serve Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's impure intelligence, and it'll take us back down to material activity and material absorption. And so without this realization of personalism, I'm an eternal person, and God's an eternal person. Without that realization, we'll be on a Ferris wheel, maybe sometimes detaching from matter, then back into it. We'll be on the Ferris wheel driven by envy. That's the impure intelligence. Because the whole kind of material project is like, why should Krishna be the center? David Wolf should be the center. David Wolf should be the center. And I mean, that takes different forms and might get very cosmic. And so the idea of these, like, yes, I'm God, I just haven't realized it yet. There's so many flaws to that. How could God fall into illusion? That means the power of illusion, Maya, is greater than God. It doesn't make sense. So many flaws. And acharyas like Ramanuja, they knock the teeth out of these weak philosophies.
Yeah.
Powerfully.
The devil overthrows the kingdom of God type thing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a Mayavad.
It's a Mayavad philosophy. So sure, maybe that. So with the non-personal realization, if we stop there, it's okay to realize we're all one as human beings. It's true, and I'm a distinctive person. You're a distinctive person. All snowflakes are one in a sense, and they're distinctive. There's truth, but if we develop a hardened heart and say, and there is no personalism, that the ultimate truth is the Brahma-Gyoti. And that's why, for example, Sutta Goswami in the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto, he describes 3 aspects of God realization, three aspects of the Absolute. Anti Tata Tvalidas Tatvamyaj Ganamadvayam Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavati Shabdite. Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. All right. But then the next verse, he specifically goes, the sincere, humble student, they go from Bhagavan realization, Tapshradadara Munaya Jnana Vairagya, Yuktaya, Pashantyat Mami Chatmana Bhakti Shuta Grihitaya. They really understand Vedanta and they realize this absolute truth through bhakti, through devotional service. Because if it's all one and I'm not a person, then I have all these psychological excuses to not surrender to another person and still feel myself as spiritual. So that's going to be very limiting. It's going to be very limiting. It's going to limit in understanding who I am as an eternal person. And I'm not going to grow powerfully, because growing powerfully in my spirit, in my spiritual eternal individuality, that comes from Tirena Bhakti Yogena Yajita Pusha. That comes from intensely engaging in devotional service. So for all one, there's no distinction between the servant, the served, and the service.
Then you don't need to surrender to anyone.
Don't need to surrender.
It sounds to me that that's like the payoff to this.
That's the payoff.
Okay.
I like that. Exactly. That's
really
the payoff.
enlightening to hear, because I'm like tapping that into something that I'm experiencing.
That's the payoff. I don't get this. I don't need to surrender. I can do whatever I want to do and call myself spiritual. Or let's more precise. I can do whatever my mind and senses dictate me to do. Thanks for your question. George.
Hare Krishna, David. Thank you for the class. I want to share the point that, at least personally in my life, when I encounter questions about God, it's less from, I would say, a Mayavadi philosophy. It's more so from people in my past trying to convince me that, like, if I'm outside the church, the Christian church, then I'm lost and I will not be saved. And that somehow, at least more recent news, like the devil's responsible for the virus. And, I just had an article sent to me that said, the titled, convert your home into a church, and that will send the devil away with the virus. And so it's more of like a sectarian understanding. And even just being in the class today, it feels very much like fear-based, and they can cite like St. Paul and St. whoever, they can cite, they have their sources, but it feels like more of a fear-based and less intellectually stimulating or appealing to me. This idea that if I step outside of this specific, it's just like interesting, because on one hand it's like, because there's a statement of like the church being the body of Christ, and that, it's like very personal. It's like a personal philosophy, but it's very
your background is a personalist form of Christianity. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the same, you're noticing the fear-based sectarianism of it rather than a true universalism.
Yeah, like the idea, like I'm hearing this idea of like, if I'm not going to the specific building, then I'm lost. And at the same time, I'm hearing on our end, I was always a soul. There was never a time where I was not an individual person. I will always continue to be an individual person. And that's so much more enlivening, so much more like enriching, I guess, to my mind and to my sense of truth, rather than because then like I read these posts and it's like, well, did Jesus go to church? Like my mind goes there, like what was Jesus' church, and was it called a church or was it called the temple? You know what I mean? Like, and so it's like, it's I guess my process is more like trying to support people from my past when they say like, convert your church or your home into a church. I'm like, what would it be like to be at church 24 hours a day now that we're in isolation? Like, good, that's great. You know what I mean? Like trying to find compassion and encourage them to be in that mood of thinking about Jesus and thinking about God without like without getting like, I don't know, like defensive or like, you know.
Without you, yeah, to encourage the conversions, to see where there's points of resonance, like that. To me, in essence, that's a wonderful point. This is the time to make your home into a church. That's very inspiring. Now, if we get like, if it becomes in the sense of an institution, in the sense of a sectarian thing, but yeah, this is the time to dedicate. Yeah, where we are in lockdown. We don't get to go out as much. Great. So so this family home, let's make this a place of God. Let's turn, referencing Anne Christopherson there, let's transform the master bedroom to the master's room. Let's, this is the time to increase by 10 times, 100 times the God consciousness, dedication to true spiritual life, dedication to transformation of heart. Yeah, so that principle is there. And so I'm hearing like from those who you're hearing from, different family members, you want to restrain your propensity that could just be kind of roadblocking for them, empathize with them, and to share in a way that's encouraging, in a way that's fully aligned with these universal principles. Because yeah, the sectarian, because just like let's say if let's say if someone wants to learn math, my goal is to learn math, right? And I say I want to learn math, but I mean I'm not going to I wouldn't learn math from a Mexican, or there's no way I'm going to take a course if there's a woman math teacher, or or Scandinavian. No way. So then it's like, well, David Wolf, you're not really serious about learning math. If I'm really serious about learning math, if the best teacher, if the best course is in Mexico or Jerusalem or Nairobi, I'm there. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where in the world. So similarly, I want the truth about spiritual life. I want God consciousness. What's the process that's going to help me to be not God? It's going to help me to be godly. And if that process is best taught by someone that's from a church called this, or a temple called that, or a synagogue called that, whatever. I just want the truth. I want a process that works to transform the heart from material greed, lust, envy, hatred to godly qualities, and deepens my enthusiasm to love God. And wherever I can get that, and it can be someone who's in the body of a woman, a man, someone who came from India, someone who came from California. I just want to process that's really powerful.
Or most living or dead.
Yeah, right. Yes. So, and so I'm hearing, George, you're endeavoring to meet them where they're at, and without yourself becoming emotionally triggered in a way that creates a wall in the relationship, and to find points of genuine convergence. Yeah, I remember in 83, 84, I studied in Eish HaTorah. It's a yeshiva in the Yer Atika, in the old city of Jerusalem, but right by the Wailing Wall. And it was very enriching. It was very intellectually stimulating. Still, I did not, and I was associating with the top rabbis in the world. There was Rabbi Ackerman, Rabbi Weinberg. These were the top. This was Jerusalem, old city, and it was very fascinating. Still, I was experiencing consistently that just basic questions I have, a new bhakta or bhaktin in the Hare Krishna Center could give me more clear, intellectually satisfying answers than these top rabbis. Just because, right here in Bhagavad Gita, that was my experience. So for me, and I had a thing but I'm Jewish. Well, what's that mean? I'm looking for the truth of who I am. I'm looking for a process that will actually support me in coming to self-realization and God consciousness. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because this is the most powerful process I've found. I remain open. If someone provides me a philosophy that makes more sense and a process that's more powerful, I'll take it.
I think, yeah.
I just want to add also, David, just based on what you just said, that I appreciate so much like what you're saying, because like the idea that, you know, spiritual life starts with distinguishing matter from spirituality, what's spirit and what is matter, and like just seeing the lack thereof in this philosophy, where you get like one, see, because what happens to me is I can see grunges coming up of also like my, you know, subtle, you know, subtle material kind of energy, like the ego wanting me to be right and telling and seeing like what I know and saying like, wait, so what you're saying is you get one life and then, you know, it's do or die, and then the devil is this character that sends this virus that like kills you like halfway through your life. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I just want to be like, this is, you know, blah blah blah, and like I'm understanding that like both from the Sapatovian and the Bhakti Yoga perspective of being able to distinguish matter from spirit, and then having the awareness of where my grunges are coming up, where my subtle ego is coming up of wanting to be right and driving this point home, how I can be that wall that you were describing, and then choosing to find those similarities in order to support other people to turn towards God and putting myself aside. I feel like it's so much, like I feel gratitude and I'm enlivened by what I'm doing this morning. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, George. I'm hearing that your parents are your gurus, and they're supporting you to find your own impurities, your own anartas, and their presence is supporting you to cleanse your own heart, pull the weeds, and become more and more clean and pure and truly empathic and compassionate in your communication.
Very much so. Thank you, David.
Thank you, George. Tyler.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you. Thank you for the class. What's happening for me, I'm thinking a lot about Course in Miracles. It's a book that I found a lot of inspiration and spiritual wisdom in. And it's certainly, you know, talks a lot about oneness and the oneness of spirit. And it also, you know, at the end it says, you know, this is not the end, this is the beginning. And, you know, now you go from here. My understanding is that the goal of the course is to experience peace, to get to a place of peace, and then get in touch with what, you know, the phrase they use, the Holy Spirit, but the idea of, you know, the super soul in the heart, and to go from there. And so I've had a lot of discussions, and I'm really curious, I'm really inspired by the course. I think it's a really beautiful, kind of like a work of art, like a spiritual poem, and a lot of psychology, and I guess the idea of oneness that's really helpful for me in there is the idea that, you know, taking 100% responsibility. So if I'm angry and, you know, blaming other people, actually if we're one, then I have to withdraw that projection and own that, and understand, like, if I'm attacking my brother, if I see Donald Trump and I hate Donald Trump, I have to be able to understand that, like, he's also, we're one in Christ in that sense, or one spiritually. And so by launching those projections out at him or whoever I choose to identify as the enemy, that's only kind of reinforcing that in my own psyche and those negative messages towards myself. So yeah, I see a lot of value in that. And I also, you know, recognize that that's incomplete and it's not the whole picture. And yeah, like I think you shared that earlier, to stop there would not be sufficient. But I guess I wanted to speak to that, the value that I see in that concept of oneness, and not kind of skipping over it, but seeing like that is a stage or part of the process for me in spiritual awakening and realization. And I guess the question I have is more about, like, you know, what's the value if everything is there in Prabhupada's books, and I can also get that understanding from Prabhupada's books, like, is it worth my time? Is it valuable to study that as well, and kind of I'm sitting with that question, like how to balance those paths.
I hear, Tyler, you're in that question for yourself, for your own study. And yeah, probably like this in Bhagavad Gita, in so many places, Prabhupada says, yeah, there's no conflict between impersonalism and personalism. They're synergistic. Sometimes Prabhupada, also in a purport in Gita, he said, there's the impersonalist, there's the personalist, and there's the devotees. Meaning, he's warning against, whether in the name of personalism or impersonalism, we can become, like George was sharing, we can become like sectarian. This is my camp, this is my philosophical camp. Yeah. And Prabhupada emphasizes a true devotee of God is appreciating all perspectives on realization of the absolute. The perspective that emphasizes the impersonal energetic oneness, the perspective that appreciates the personality of God. A true devotee of God is not in some sectarian philosophical camp. And so, yeah, so the conventional Vedic process is that one kind of purifies and works their way up the varnas till one becomes a Brahmin. A Brahmin, in the actual sense, it's not a birth, it's not someone who has a 25-cent string or something like that. An actual Brahmin is one who's realized Brahman, realized oneness. And then, if they're not envious, then they become a true yogi and they meditate on the next aspect of God realization, Paramatma, super soul in the heart. And then they become Paramatma realized. And from there, they gradually, if they don't fall into the pitfall of thinking I am the super soul, and that's a danger, the yogis. But then if the yogi realizes I'm the soul and this is the super soul, and they develop a service mentality towards the super soul, and then they come gradually to Krishna consciousness, Bhagavan realization. So yeah, it's all synergistic. The process we get from Lord Chaitanya and Prabhupada, since we don't have a million years, because actually the meditative process, it takes like 60,000 years to perfect. It's the whole thing. So we kind of have this bhakti elevator. It's an elevator to the top floor. And so just because we got that process, it doesn't mean that we're elevated. It's because related to what you shared, Tyler, if someone truly has realization of the oneness and there's true non-attachment for just that kind of sectarian materialism, that's a very glorious spiritual achievement. And we don't want to stop there. But we don't want to minimize it. We don't want to invalidate it. It's like when we hear criticisms of Mayavad impersonalism, it's not criticism of realization of oneness. That's a glorious spiritual achievement. I have a long way to go to get there. So the criticism is for those who say that this is the be all and end all of God realization. And then they deny Krishna, the personality of Godhead. And then that becomes offensive and that becomes really harmful for people. And from a point of view of someone like Ramanujacharya or Srila Prabhupada, it's not just a philosophical debate. They're serving Krishna, they're serving Lord Ram, they're serving Nrsimhadev with intense personal affection, love, and devotion. And so for philosophies to come and say, Krishna does not exist, this is just illusion, it's like it personally hurts their heart. Just like if we can think of someone dear to us, and then someone says, he doesn't even exist. He doesn't have any eyes or arms. He has no personality. It's offensive. Thanks for your sharing, Tyler. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I just wanted to add that really resonates. And I've seen a lot of folks in that community, the Course in Miracles community, that's the conclusion, right? That they're not open to going further, which actually the Course itself says. And it kind of becomes like this arrogance and like sad to me to see like the emptiness, that nothing's real, it's all an illusion, and it kind of ends in like a dead end. So yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you, Tyler. Dr. Patrick.
Actually, Hare Krishna. Thank you for your class, Dhira Govinda. Actually, Nalini has a question he'd like to ask.
How did people know about Krishna?
How did people first start? Say it. Take your hand away from your mouth.
How did people start knowing about Krishna?
Okay, how did people start knowing about Krishna? Thanks for your question, Nalini. Thanks for your question. So, most people never forgot Krishna. It's actually a small percentage of people who left the spiritual world where everyone is playing with Krishna. Everyone's playing with Krishna there in different forms. Everyone's just engaged in relationship with Krishna as a servant, as a friend, as a parent. So most people never forgot Krishna. They eternal means no end and no beginning. That's what eternal means. And this verse is about eternal. So most people, I'm not talking about most people that we know or ourselves, but most people in the creation, the vast percentage, they never forgot Krishna. Now, as far as with it, so this realm, what's called the material world, this is a place for those of us who wanted to forget Krishna. And so, and so kind of those in this world were dedicated to forget Krishna. That's what the material energy is about. And it's not about blaming the material energy. We attract material energy because we want to forget Krishna. We want to forget that we're servants of Krishna. So in the whole cosmic creation, most people never forgot Krishna. They're eternally remembering Krishna. Smaranam. They're eternally remembering Krishna, eternally glorifying Krishna, playing with Krishna, dancing with Krishna. That's the thing. Mayavad philosophy, impersonalism, it means dancing, that's Maya. Spiritual means no dancing. So no, bhakti yoga is no, spiritual means dancing with Krishna. Dancing, sugar, gulab jamuns, ladus.
Yeah.
Right? No, really, so it's an important point.
Halwa.
So personalism. So it means
Sugar.
Yes. Thank you. So in this world, so people forget because we want to forget. And then like 5,000 years ago, Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to help people to remember him. And then and that helps. And then but then a lot of people forgot. And then 500 years ago, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. He's a combined expansion. He's a combined form of Radha and Krishna. And he appeared and he gave his Shikshastakam, he gave his pastimes, and then to help people remember. And about 55 years ago, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada came to the West. Later, to tell people remember Krishna. And in about 4 days, it's the appearance day of Sri Ramachandra. Sitaram Jaya Sitaram, Sitaram Jaya Sitaram. So Ramachandra.
And then Hanuman on the 6th.
Ramachandra appeared maybe about 1 million years ago to help people remember Krishna. I like your question, Nalini Kanta. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I did have a question or a comment also.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So I think it relates to sectarianism and Krishna consciousness. I think I was thinking the other day that this process is the highest. Krishna consciousness, bhakti yoga. It's the highest. Please don't talk while I'm talking. It is the highest, form of spiritual practice or even anything to do with the human form of life. And then when our community bhakti yoga, sattva tov, influences, then there's something so special about that, even more sublime. And objectively speaking, is it the highest form? I don't know, but you could make an argument that it's a very special form of Krishna consciousness. and of course, being Prabhupada centered, the transformation that he, stood for and created, then there's something that's like even more sublime about, a Prabhupada centered form of Krishna consciousness, bhakti yoga. So that's all, objectively speaking, you can look at that and make arguments. And then at the same time, if I think, and so whenever we get together, whenever we're gathering, we're doing kirtan or we're chanting, we're reading philosophy, it's like we're doing the highest form of yoga. And then, but then if I think about what am I really doing, it's like, what, I kind of had this thing like the other day, it's kind of, it's easy for me to get caught up in just like, oh, we're doing the highest form of yoga. What we're doing is the most important. And it can become a sectarian kind of thing. What I'm doing is the most important. What my group of people are doing whenever we get together is the most important thing to be doing. And there's truth to that. And at the same time, there's a pitfall there and I appreciated what you said the other day, who cares what you believe in or even what you're doing? What's your purity? What's the purity of heart? So don't tell me about what you believe in or even what your practices are, but let me get to know you and see you on a day-to-day basis. And then you can reveal the person's character, and the quality of their heart is revealed through actions and how interactions and try to treat people. And so I just it's like because I have this thought like, oh, we're devotees are amazing, and what we're doing together is do something so special, what we're doing. But then if I think about what am I really doing, how special is it? Okay, I spend some time chanting, and then okay, I read some, and then I do some kirtan, and that doesn't mean that I'm the best or I'm doing the highest form of yoga, or that I'm so, and it comes down to really what's the purity of my heart and consciousness, and what's the transformation that's happening. And then, for others too, somebody could be, and even you can look even at isolated to Krishna consciousness that, okay, I'm sadhana, there's a sadhana bhakti who's just like chanting 16 rounds, following regular principles, doing nice, whatever, really following strictly, chanting 16 rounds. And then maybe there's someone else who they're not have so much sadhana bhakti, but they just like do deity worship, and they just focus on their deities with so much heart and love, and the purity of their heart is like so much more. So it's like, and you can expand it out. Of course, there could be a Christian person who is much more pure than me. I'm sure that a lot of people much more pure-hearted than me. And so so there's part of it is like, it's not directly dependent on like what path we choose or what even steps we're taking in the purity of heart transformation. It's not necessarily dependent on a certain action or certain path to follow. And at the same time, like there is that objective truth, like the Prabhupada's giving the highest form. And if we stick to it and practice it sincerely, then we're going to get more purity of heart. Not to say that I'm going to catch up to somebody else. I may never catch up to somebody who's more pure doing something really simple, or some Christian philosopher, Christian practitioner. I may never catch up to them, but at least it's like a guaranteed way to advance in purity of heart and Krishna consciousness. So those are some thoughts I wanted to share.
Thanks for sharing, Dr. Patrick. Yeah, that could be another trap another trap for the ego, because actual spiritual progress is characterized by true humility. And if I say I'm the best, my group, it becomes another form of pseudo-spiritual sectarianism. And also in recent decades, but I remember my time in the Middle East, particularly Israel. And I had so many just one-on-one connections, conversations with Sufis and other types of Muslims and Christians. And their realization about God was, and itself and godly qualities was so much more evolved than mine, so much more evolved. So many examples like that. And objectively, the Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy we get through the six Goswamis, it's a more complete philosophy, it's a more complete process. And so I have some connection with that process, and certainly I was not more advanced in spiritual life or God consciousness than they were. And so it's one thing to objectively think, where's like a most complete philosophical system and process to take us to the highest levels of love of God. And that's one conversation. Another conversation is, where am I at? And yeah, sure, I might not through any sincerity of mine, but through Prabhupada's mercy, I have connection with this most sublime, complete process. And the condition of my heart shows that I'm not that sincere in practicing the process. Thanks for your sharing, Bhakta Patrick. Laura Levin.
Hello, everybody. The other day I listened to like a Torah, or like from the Old Testament, like a rabbi explaining that parsha, or that section, just kind of like what we're doing today. And it's so interesting because they were talking about like collecting good deeds, like Jews, like there's 613 commandments, and then you kind of like do them, you collect them, and then once you die, the idea of this portion was like, or his explanation of the portion is like, once you die, you'll be closer to God. Like we're collecting them for the afterlife. And I was just like, you're missing it. Like we're collecting them, we're doing these good things for now, for like, to get closer to God now, to get closer to our true selves. And I was just thinking like in gratitude how like I got so much out of his explanation, like out of listening to this Torah portion, by like taking that next step. And I was just like, without like coming to these talks or like going to Sattva Tov, I'd be like, okay, we're collecting these things for after like we die, and like it just would feel like so much more disconnected. And so I just have this thought that like, okay, yeah, like maybe all of these like it's more complete in the Vaishnav, or it's just, to me it feels like it's just more easily accessible, like to get closer to God through these talks than to like listen to the Jewish philosophy, which just feels like so much. I think it's all in there, and it's so much harder to access, like someone who can interpret it in the way that maybe Prabhupada has. Like it feels way more inaccessible, and thanks to these programs, I feel like I have more access to like my Jewish identity. Oh, and also the one other thing I got out of this today is like Maya means like that which is non-eternal, versus like this is all illusion. It's like, okay, this isn't all illusion, it's just not eternal because it's part of the material world.
Thanks for sharing, Laura. I'm glad to hear the value you get from these talks, these discussions and programs. My heart is gladdened from that. And yeah, it's like, yeah, it says like this house, this body, it's real, but it's not eternal. And so it's Maya. It's Maya to think I am the body. It's Maya to think that my fulfillment will be in these temporary forms. My actual fulfillment is in that which is eternal, and that service to God, that's eternal. That nothing material can take that away. And yeah, and it's, as you're saying, this is not a philosophy of be good and do good now, and then you'll go to heaven. Rupa Goswami describes the Hayasya Haredasya Karmanasam Manasa Gira Nikilas Vakya Vastasu Jivan Muktasa Uchyate that simply by chanting the names of God, now serving God with love and devotion, engaging in talks like this, then we experience liberation. We experience God consciousness while we're in this body. We don't need to wait till the body dies. So thanks for sharing. I'm inspired by your realizations. Thank you. Brielle.
I was thinking how impersonal realization, like if we were to read Prabhupada's books, it could be easy to misunderstand that he's like completely trashing like everything with impersonalism. And actually, if I look at myself, like if I were to rise to impersonal realization, that would be really elevated in a sense, because I think it was Rama I was talking to about this, that I think he said once we reach impersonal, like if we actually act on impersonal realization, then it becomes personal. Meaning like if I were to actually act on impersonal realization, that I would live with so much compassion for people, like treating everybody as if they're me. It's like the golden rule personified. And so yeah, it's just actually such a high platform. And where it's not high is, like you said, when it's saying that's the end all be all. But in action, like to actually live in the impersonal philosophy is like such a beautiful, elevated way to live.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Brielle. Yeah. Thanks.
This is
Yeah.
Tyler. I was going to say thank you for putting that so well, Brielle. That's exactly the way I feel like when I'm really practicing what I'm learning in A Course in Miracles, for example. For me, that's a path of, it's like, yeah, it becomes really personal because I'm actually interacting with other people, other spirit souls. So it does become personal. That's really, really well put. I appreciate that a lot. Thanks for sharing that. And also what Patrick was saying too, it's like that just openness of the sincere, cultivating purity in our hearts is, and then having this path, like what a blessing to be able to see the whole picture and also meet ourselves where we're at. It's like, what a great opportunity. Hare Krishna.
Thanks for that. Yeah, both personalism and impersonalism philosophically can be used as an excuse to have a hardened heart, and that's missing the point. Whether it's a genuine impersonal path or personal path, a symptom will be a truly softened, compassionate, empathic heart. I'm reminded of Prahlad Maharaj. He described a Vaishnav is paradukha dukhi, truly feeling the pain of others as one's own. That's a Vaishnav heart, and that's if someone's truly realized in their Buddhist path or their Christian path or their Shankaracharya path, truly experiencing someone else's pain as our own, and simultaneously equipped with realized transcendental knowledge to support someone to liberate themselves from that painful condition. I'll bring our conversation to a close. Thank you for your presence and association. Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Bol.